We can't count on the police to police themselves. Our findings today reveal very significant and severe violations of federal law and the Constitution.
Is the FBI finally figuring out what we the people have known all along? Law enforcement agencies across this country investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing. It's about time. Hey, what's up guys? Long Island Audit here, back again with another video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a close look at the report issued by the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division detailing the tyranny and corruption that is taking place inside of the Phoenix Police Department. Let's get into it.
This is one instance where we can't count on the police to police themselves.
Let's repeat that. The Department of Justice does not believe Phoenix PD can police itself.
I would take that a step further. I don't believe that any law enforcement agency has the capability of policing themselves.
And it's for a lot of reasons.
This is one instance where we can't count on the police to police themselves.
That was Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark when she announced the results of the DOJ's 3-year investigation into Phoenix PD. And despite promises from the city to do better and be better, nothing has changed the DOJ's mind.
While the city has undertaken some preliminary steps, our findings today reveal very significant and severe violations of federal law and the Constitution.
Here's what the DOJ wrote in their report. Our experience shows that reforms on paper are not enough to address entrenched unlawful practices of the degree we describe in this report.
Recently, the city issued a Road to Reform report laying out what the city has done and intends to do in the future. However, today, many reforms have not yet been implemented. Other reforms exist on paper, but not in practice.
In its report, the DOJ outlined what it wants from Phoenix with a list of recommended remedial measures. There are 37 of them. Here are some of the key ones. When it comes to use of force, the DOJ found Phoenix kills too many people and uses excessive, unnecessary, and unreasonable force, and that's even against kids and people with special needs. So, the DOJ wants improved policies, reporting, review, data, and training.
Yeah, just go in there and get your belongings, get your trash.
When it comes to the treatment of the unhoused population, the DOJ found Phoenix wrongly takes and destroys their belongings and over-polices them.
I gotta get my tickets up this month, okay?
Officers even target the homeless to boost arrest numbers. That's why the DOJ wants improved policies for the seizure and destruction of property and better documentation for how officers police the homeless.
I will walk away voluntarily. I will walk away voluntarily.
Are you resisting?
When it comes to discrimination, the DOJ found Phoenix routinely stops, tickets, and arrests minorities at a much higher rate and found the city ignored clear and obvious issues. So the DOJ wants improved documentation and policies for Phoenix to start keeping and tracking data. When it comes to retaliation against protesters, the DOJ found officers targeted critics with excessive force and bogus arrests, charges, and investigations.
Somebody help me!
For that, the DOJ says Phoenix needs to improve policies, training, accountability, and permitting.
I have to stop this right here. While I do applaud the Department of Justice for issuing this comprehensive report detailing the constitutional rights violations, tyranny, and corruption being perpetrated by the Phoenix Police Department, improved policies and training is not going to cut it. There needs to be accountability. The Department of Justice says it themselves, accountability. You could see it right there. So why is it that the Department of Justice isn't prosecuting this department individually, each officer that we see here violating we the people's constitutional rights, using excessive force? Why aren't they criminally charging them? The only way to change things in law enforcement is to make sure that they are held accountable for their criminal actions. Violating someone's constitutional rights is a crime. Excessive force is assault by a law enforcement officer. They need to enforce the law and put these criminals in jail where they belong.
When it comes to behavioral health response,
Okay, so come on. Come on. There's no reason to make this into a big scene.
the DOJ found Phoenix too often treats people in crisis as crimes rather than medical emergencies, leading to unnecessary force and arrests. That's why the DOJ wants the city to ensure dispatchers are sending the right kind of help and improve data keeping and analysis. And when it comes to accountability, supervision, and training, the DOJ found a lot of problems. In short, Phoenix fails to conduct proper.
Why isn't that officer charged? You see that officer right there, ladies and gentlemen? He just smacked that man while he's handcuffed behind his back. Smacked him. Why isn't that officer being prosecuted by the Department of Justice? Makes you think, doesn't it?
Internal investigations. Internal investigators didn't even receive formal training. Supervisors ignored complaints. Discipline is all over the map. There's little supervision, and the department literally trains officers that using overwhelming force is actually de-escalation.
Using overwhelming force is actually de-escalation. Wow.
So here are some changes the DOJ wants to see. Identify and actually investigate all allegations made in complaints. Require officers to report misconduct. Improve internal investigation training and staffing. Make sure officers can't randomly turn off or mute body cameras. And ensure officers are regularly and appropriately trained. Bottom line, the DOJ wants federal oversight, and Phoenix does not. And that's why back in January, Phoenix released its 50-page Road to Reform report.
You're not even at operational compliance on any of these things yet, it seems.
It certainly is a process. You have to build policy, you have to train, and then you have to measure your compliance in the different areas.
Do you really need to train an individual not to smack a man while he's handcuffed behind his back? Does that need to be trained? This is just common sense, common decency as a human being. What the Phoenix Police Department and law enforcement agencies across the country, FBI, I think you need to investigate Nassau County, New York, with the corrupt police commissioner, Patrick Psycho Ryder. I'm sure you'll find a lot there. But again, training, memos, all of this isn't going to help. There needs to be accountability. These officers need to be charged just like anyone else would be for breaking the law.
But I can tell you, we're moving at a much faster pace in this reform than if we had court oversight.
ABC 15 senior investigator Melissa Blasius interviewed interim chief Michael Sullivan. At the time, Phoenix hoped their Road to Reform report could convince the DOJ to end its investigation and just issue recommendations.
Court oversight is very burdensome. To do the efforts that we've done already would have taken 3 times the amount of time.
But critics see it differently. Phoenix shouldn't get credit for doing something they're essentially being forced to do by the feds. Regardless, it didn't sway the DOJ. In fact, it may have backfired. The DOJ report specifically cited parts of Phoenix's Road to Reform report as proof that the city didn't seem to understand its problems are deep and severe.
Ultimately, our findings reveal evidence showing long-standing dysfunction at the Phoenix Police Department.
Not dysfunction, tyranny. Tyranny.
The
Call it what it
problems
is.
at their core reflect a lack of effective supervision, training, and accountability.
You see, the Assistant Attorney General there says accountability, but she has the power to hold the Phoenix Police Department officers, these tyrants who are running amok in Phoenix, violating we the people's constitutional rights. She has the power to hold them accountable. I understand issuing a report, but what about some indictments? But it's not just the internal affairs that's a problem. Now, I've been a long time proponent of independent civilian review boards that can hold law enforcement officers accountable when internal affairs will not, which is almost all the time. But they have to be empowered to do so. And the Department of Justice said in their report that Phoenix's civilian review board has no power and is not helping anything.
The U.S. Department of Justice calling out Phoenix police for failing to police itself, including a bias toward officers and not collecting enough evidence when misconduct is alleged. But the DOJ also doubts the ability of the city's civilian oversight agency to help ensure fair and objective investigations. On page 112, the Office of Accountability and Transparency, its mission to provide civilian police oversight and the hurdles to making objective assessments.
Mayor Kay Gallego acknowledging Phoenix was one of the largest cities in the country without civilian oversight until today.
After years of public debate, it was May 19th, 2021. Phoenix City Council made final approval for the Office of Accountability and Transparency.
I love that. Office of Accountability and Transparency. But It's all for show. Take a look.
Also known as OAT. According to the DOJ report, implementation stalled, however, when the state legislature passed a law to limit civilian participation in the investigation of police misconduct. OAT's wings clipped before it even got off the ground. In September 2022, a civilian director and staff did start monitoring Phoenix police investigations of officer-involved shootings, in-custody deaths, uses of force resulting in serious physical injury, and other high-profile incidents. But Director Roger Smith quit in February 2024 before issuing a single report. His resignation letter said, "Events have led me to conclude that OAT does not have the independence required to effectively perform its responsibilities." Afterward, he exclusively interviewed with ABC 15.
People within city administration wanting to see monitoring reports and wanting to play a role in editing and impacting the content of those reports.
Editing reports. So the police department and the administration of the city wanted to edit the independent civilian review board for accountability and transparency in law enforcement.
They asked to edit your reports?
They were giving specific edits that they wanted to see, and they were commenting generally on the nature of the content of the reports.
According to the DOJ report, one community advocate we spoke to expressed frustration that the model of independent oversight they championed had been shredded. After 2 years of monitoring police investigations, OAT has issued just 11 reports. 6 found Phoenix PD's internal investigations of its own officers were not sufficiently thorough and complete. And nearly all the reports, 10 out of 11, offered some suggestions for process improvements.
See, this is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. These independent civilian review boards, Office of Accountability and Transparency, whatever you want to call it, they need to have legal authority over the law enforcement officers. They need to have some sort of authority to be able to investigate them. That's what needs to happen here, ladies and gentlemen.
Progress on releasing the monitoring reports is slow. A recent report showed that there were 74 active cases. That's a big backlog. Is transparency delayed? Transparency denied?
It can be, absolutely, when the delays are severe, when you're talking about, years from the incident to the point where you're getting reports, absolutely.
DOJ investigators wrote, OAT is still finding its footing as an agency, but it is not clear whether it will be able to deliver consistent and effective civilian review of Phoenix PD.
How can it when the Phoenix Police Department is making edits to their reports and they're not handing over documentation, body camera footage? They're stonewalling them. And I'm sure this agency doesn't have any authority to take that information. They have to just go based off of what Phoenix Police Department is giving them. That's not the way to do it.
What's the biggest challenge to OAT's success? This is what Smith told me in February.
There is a need for more information, both over what's been agreed to and over what's been created in the ordinance. There's a need for more access and more immediate and direct access.
And the DOJ seems to agree, recommending in its report that the city needs to ensure Phoenix PD provides any external oversight body, including OAT, with the broadest and most prompt access to agency data, systems, documents, and personnel permitted by law.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I felt compelled to use my platform to share this story with each and every one of you. Please hit the like button and share this video so it can be seen by as many people as possible. ABC7 is doing a great job reporting on all the aspects of the Department of Justice's report on the tyranny and corruption happening in the Phoenix Police Department. But unfortunately, no mainstream media is. Not CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, none of them, News Nation, none of them are covering this story in such depth, going detail by detail, showing video of this corruption, these constitutional rights violations. I wonder why that is. They don't want you to know. These videos on YouTube have only been seen 12,000 times. Only 12,000 people got to hear this. Everyone needs to hear and see this. I highly recommend using the QR code and downloading the DOJ's report and reading it for yourself. ABC7 did a good job at highlighting the key points, but I've read the report. It is truly shocking, but not surprising. This is happening not just in the Phoenix Police Department. This is happening in departments all across our country, from California to New York, Florida, Texas, and everywhere in between, because they investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing. Who is watching the law enforcement officers? Because it's not internal affairs. Internal affairs is a division of the law enforcement agency designed to cover up the misconduct of its officers. Talk to anybody internal affairs who's honest. You know, that is their purpose, is to cover up and minimize the misconduct by law enforcement officers for the public. There needs to be an independent civilian review board. We need everyday Americans, patriots, to hold these law enforcement officers accountable. Tyranny has no place in our country. We need to do better. The Department of Justice issuing this report is a step in the right direction, but indictments would have been better. Indictments on all of these officers. The reason why they don't do it is because Phoenix Police Department wouldn't have any more law enforcement officers. They would have to indict everyone. This is egregious misconduct on a massive scale. So imagine if they did this and they indicted all of these officers you've seen in these reports for their misconduct. But that's what needs to be done, because then it will send a message to law enforcement agencies all over the country that if you violate we the people's constitutional rights, if you break the law, if you violate your oath, you will be held accountable. Forget qualified immunity, forget civil damages. You will go to jail because it is a federal crime to violate someone's rights. And you see it on my channel, you see it on other activist channels. We have our rights violated on a daily basis. Enough is enough. We need to call our politicians. We need to go out there and protest and make sure we get civilian review boards with actual power to hold these law enforcement agencies accountable. That's what needs to be done for transparency and accountability. I really appreciate all your support, guys. Please like and share this video so it can be seen by as many people as possible. As always, stay safe. God bless. I'll see you in the next one. Long Island Audit. Peace.